9:30, so welcome everyone. I would declare this open session to begin, and I would ask first off if the clerk has any rise and report from in camera. Stefan?
Thank you, Warden. There's two matters to report. One, County Council in its in-camera session earlier today did approve its minutes of its in-camera session of May 6, 2020. And secondly, County Council received an oral report on the status of negotiations and our agreements with Seasons Retirement Community Sarnia on the potential 20-year lease with at the Bayside Centre. Those are matters to be reported.
Okay, thank you for that. Item number 6 on the agenda is silent reflection, and we certainly have a world that is changing and things that are happening around the world that I think we just have to be all mindful of and support each other. So we'll leave the silent reflection at that. And at this time, we do have an update from the Medical Officer of Health. So if Dr. Ranaday is available, I would ask that he join us. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can now. Perfect.
No? Oh, okay, great. All right, well, thank you, Warden. Good morning, everyone. As I've done before, I'm going to share my screen with you, which just takes 1 second so I can provide an update. We're gonna try that again. Okay, so you should be able to see my screen now. Can you let me know that you, okay, great, thank you, good. Okay, so good morning, everyone. I'll give you a little update on what's happening with COVID in Lambton County. We have currently 266 total cases that we've had during the course of this pandemic. We have 210 of them have recovered. Unfortunately, we've had 24 deaths, and we are now at 1 current facility outbreak. There was one that we were able to remove from outbreak status just the other day, so we're down to 1. I'm going to go back and show you the curve that we've talked about before, and so you can see, if you see this screen here, it is, the cases are rising. You would still expect that because this is a cumulative case count. So as we get cases, then the line here is going to continue to go up and up and up. But having said that, it's sort of the slope of that line, and we do see that it has flattened out. And what we have to pay attention to now over the next several weeks is as things start to open up, there's sort of a 2-week time lag between when social networks start to resume in different places and people go to more spaces, and when we would expect to see cases. So that's something to keep in mind. So our ability to detect that is a little bit off from when it's actually happening because of the time between when people are infected and they develop symptoms, and they get a test, that test gets reported back to us. Just finally, the other quick thing that I wanted to mention for you was a little bit of information related to kind of the severity scale of cases. So this little graph here, if you can see it, is based on only the resolved cases. And the reason for that is because people will progress through their illness differently. And if we capture them while we detect the disease, then that status could change. So, so what we notice though is that, the graph here shows us the percentage of cases that we think are asymptomatic, symptomatic and self-isolated, required a visit to the emergency room, required hospitalization, required ICU admission, and were fatal. And so you can see that at this point, based on our current number of resolved cases, that 10% of them were fatal. But the vast majority, so you can see that 92% of all of the cases exhibited some kind of symptoms. which is important because there's this idea around that there's a vast majority of people out there have asymptomatic disease, and we currently don't necessarily think that that's true. So even if our 8% estimate is a little bit on the high side because there might be false positives and so forth, we think that the vast majority of people will get some kinds of symptoms with this disease, and that's very important for how we think through the approach to containment, how we think through the approach to screening, how we think through the approach to testing, and how we think through the approach to other public health interventions that we think might make a difference here. So that's just some information for you folks to know that this is how we've kind of categorized them, and you can see certainly this is what in line with what we would expect. Many cases are such that you can isolate at home and recover from them, and a small minority of cases, but a significant portion still, are ones where you might have to go to the hospital or be hospitalized or be in the ICU. So with that, I'm going to stop screen sharing. I hope this works. You should be able to see me again. Okay, great. Thank you. I'll turn it back to you, Warden. Thank you.
For Dr. Ranaday, will I have any questions there?
I had a question.
Raise your hand, Councillor Hand.
I just was trying to see the colors on the graph. What was the percentage of cases or individuals who were hospitalized? Is that 16?
Yes, it was 16% that were
Okay.
hospitalized.
Thank you.
But another 8% had hospital visits related to COVID symptoms.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from councillors? Councillor Bradley?
Yes, Dr. Ronde. Do you believe the group of 10 community health medical officers health in Southwestern Ontario will take a position on this regional opening issue? It's becoming a bigger issue. I've been in contact with the mayors of London and Stratford. They are opposed. And it's not defined yet, so it's really hard for you or for us to understand what the region would be, what the rules would be. But do you think your group will be discussing and recommending to us as a region what we should do?
Sure, thank you, Councillor. So we do have discussions with the larger group of medical officers of health, frequent teleconferences, especially with the ministry, to understand sort of where they're moving in terms of different sectors and responses. I can advance that discussion with the group and see what the current thinking on it is and get back to everybody about it.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Any other questions for Dr. Ranaday? Seeing none, thank you, Doctor, and we will see you again. Appreciate you coming in for the update with us today, and we'll see you on Friday morning.
Okay, thank you, Warden.
Thank you. We move along. Item number 8 is delegations, and I understand that delegation has requested that they are not coming here this morning. So I guess I would move on to item number 9, which is the minutes of the open session of council from May 6th. Have a motion to approve the minutes of May 6th council meeting. Councillor White and Councillor Roundabout. Are there any questions regarding those minutes? All in favor? I've seen everyone's hand. Thank you very much. That's carried. Item number 10 is correspondence. To receive and file, there's a recommendation that it be received and filed. There's a letter from Fort Erie and Federation of Canadian Municipalities. Moved by Councillor Cook, seconded by Councillor Napper. Any questions regarding that correspondence? Seeing none, all in favor of receiving that for information? That's carried. Thank you. Information reports, Cultural Services Division. Item A is update on the hours of pickup, curbside pickup. It's great to see our employees coming back to work and going to start some curbside pickup. Any questions regarding that? Mr. Meyer is available. Councillor Bradley.
Yes, Mr. Meyer, perhaps I missed it. What's the situation going to be with the return of fines? You're going to start doing the pickup, and then at what point will the fine system kick back in?
Thank you for the question, Councilor Bradley, through you, Warden Weaver. So at this time, we are not currently pursuing overdue fines during the period of closure, and we've temporarily suspended the accumulation of fines, just as we deal with the volume of material returns. But certainly we'll keep council apprised of looking to reactivate that service in the future. So we do know, as you would have seen just in the financial implications section, that will have an impact in terms of our implementation of this curbside pickup.
Personal basis, I think.
Any other questions, comments? I would ask for a motion that this information be received. Councillor Broad, Councillor Ferguson. Any further questions regarding that? Just say kudos to Andrew and his team for getting that up and running, or getting it online, ready to come back up to running. So it's appreciated, and I'm sure the public will be glad to be able to get their libraries back, albeit in a different form. So, all in favor of that motion? That's carried. Councillor Hand, did you have a question?
I did. I would just, I would request if Mr. Meyer could come back in the future and, or send us an update of how that program is received and the uptake. I'd be curious to know with the curbside.
Yep.
Thank you.
I'm sure we'll get an update on that. So
yeah.
Thank you for that. Item 12 is information items regarding the Woodlands Hearing Board and the Sarnia Lambton Economic Partnership minutes. There's no motion there other than a motion to receive that information. Deputy Warden Marriott and Councillor White. Any questions regarding any of those that information? Seeing none, all in favor of receiving that? That's carried. Thank you. Item number 13, we're at committee minutes. So the AM committee, I would call on Chair White.
Thank you, Warden Weaver. I present to you and County Council the committee AM minutes dated May 20th, 2020 for your consideration.
Okay, thank you. We had Medical Officer of Health update, Infrastructure Development Services. Item 1 was correspondence. Item 2 was a report from Township of St. Clair. Item 3 is correspondence, receive and file. Item 4 was an information report. Moved on to Public Health Services Division. Item 5, correspondence. Item 6, information report. Item 7, paramedicine funding update. Cultural Service Division, item 8, information reports. Item 9, the library policy manual. Item 10 was adjournment. Councillor White.
Weaver, I move that County Council accept these minutes of the AM committee from May 20th, 2020.
There's a seconder for that. Councillor Miller. And Any further questions? Seeing none, I hope I didn't pass somebody up that was had their hand up that I didn't see. All in favor of that committee minutes? That's carried. Thank you. PM committee minutes. I would call on Chair Rumbout.
Thank you, Warden. I move that the committee PM minutes of May 20th, 2020, I present them to council for your consideration.
Thank you. Again, we had a committee meeting. We had a medical officer health update. Long-term care division. Item 1 was correspondence. Item 2, information reports regarding the COVID. Corporate Services Division, item 3, information report regarding downloading of Part 3 POA offenses. Item Finance, Facilities, and Court Services, item 4 is correspondence. Item 5, information reports. Councillor Bradley.
Mr. Warden?
Councillor Bradley, and then, yep.
Yeah, I was just bringing your attention.
Can I go back to the correspondence on the Lambton Children's Safety Village? And
Yes.
I think it would be appropriate to the letter to go from you to Ms. Buntrock and the group. For those that have been here for some time, this project, they've worked on this for 20 years at least. And, you know, they were getting stronger and stronger, and then other issues intervened. I think they should be thanked for those 2 decades of trying to make this this project become reality, if you're willing to do that.
Absolutely. I will say that we send them a letter. It's disappointing that it couldn't move forward, and appreciate their efforts. Councillor Rumbout, did you have something?
No, I was just trying to bring your attention to Councillor Bradley.
Thank you. Someone else? Nope. Information reports on court services. Move on to Social Services Division. Item 6 was information reports. Item 7 regarding the Housing and Homeless Plan 5-year review. There was no in camera. We had number 8 is adjournment. Chair Rumbout.
Thank you. I present the committee PM minutes, or I move that we accept them as read, please.
Seconder for that is Councillor Stark. Seeing no further questions, all in favor of these minutes? That's carried. Thank you. We have no items tabled from previous minutes. We have a notice of motion that was presented at the May 6th meeting. And I would, Councillor Arnold, I'd like him to present this motion.
Yes, thank you, Warden Weaver, members of County Council. As indicated in the notice of motion, is that County Council give consideration at our meeting today to request that staff incorporate a roundabout at County Road 4, Petro Line, and County Road 31, Kimball Road, in the 2021 budget year. And if there's a seconder, I'd like to speak further.
Councillor White has seconded that. Go ahead, Councillor Arnold.
Thank you, Warden Weaver. Just a couple of things. I know we've got a lot of correspondence there from the folks along the 10th line, the petitions, all that good stuff. I had a number of conversations with people that were quite concerned about transporting modules down the County Road 31 and making that turn on County Road 4. And just a comment in regards to that, anything can be engineered. What I would see that it would be at level grade, a far improved intersection 4 to make that bend, anything coming off of Petroleum Line and then going on to County Road 31. And there could be temporary barricades there for the traffic flow that could be removed or reinstalled at the appropriate time. So, you know, anything can be engineered. And it is an intersection, like there's a number of them in the county, but that one came to the forefront again. And just down the road at the corner of 80 Highway and County Road 31 is another bad one, Mondawmin and Churchill. We've seen a number of them over the years. And so the thinking is that if we could move forward with this one, look at the design, and hopefully we could have a safety issue rectified.
Okay. Thank you for that. So the motion is to have it incorporated in the budget for consideration at budget time, which would be, okay. Any other questions or comments regarding that? Councillor Bradley. Your microphone.
Certainly supportive of the motion. Is there a rationale why the group didn't present today? They sent us a very extensive package. They just decided to withdraw, or they thought this motion would address the issue?
I'm not really aware of somebody, Stefan can comment as to why they...
Yeah, the individual who wished to speak to this matter today, for personal reasons, couldn't make this meeting, but we've extended the invitation if she ever wishes to speak to it in the future to still come. She knows that there was a motion on the table today for this project to be considered for the 2021 budget, and therefore there'll be ample opportunity for that individual and group to come back when she's ready to do so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bird?
Thank you, Warden Weaver. I would definitely be supporting this motion, but I just wanted to make a comment that, as Mayor Arnold mentioned, we've got several places that are critical when it comes to dealing with these kind of situations. And where I live, you know, we've got the Mondawmin and New Lakeshore roundabout. And because I live only a couple of blocks away from that, I observe that all day, every day. And for some reason, and I know the roundabout is probably the best of all the options we have right now, hopefully between now and the next budget we'll come up with something a little bit better, because every single driver that comes through the New Lakeshore part of that roundabout never stops, never even yields. They come straight through as if there's no roundabout there. I don't know how some of them make it around the circle, but this is what they do. They just don't yield at all. I'm just, it's another accident waiting to happen. So if that could be, something could be built into the consideration on this very desperate particular cross section, that if we have a yield sign that can be flashing, or some kind of a light that says stop before proceeding, something to grab the attention of the drivers is desperately needed.
Okay. Thank you for that. Councillor Ferguson?
I just want to be clear on this motion that this is only going to limit us to a roundabout, or will all other options be considered with this motion, such as the lady put in quite a presentation with different options.
The motion is for a roundabout to be as the consideration. I'm not sure whether staff motion is for a roundabout. Stefan, do you have any comments?
Correct. The motion's for a roundabout, and really to come back with effectively a study explaining and defining the potential cost of constructing a roundabout there. But again, if we have individuals from the community, including today's intended delegate, come forward, nothing will change in terms of that, the ability of the community to suggest alternatives. Again, this would be essentially a presentation for County Council's 2021 budget deliberations, and for its decision at that point in time as to whether or not it wishes to invest dollars in constructing a roundabout at that intersection.
Okay. Councillor Roundabouts and then Councillor Han.
Yes, I'm wondering if we can get a report with information about all of our major intersections that we have throughout the county, and which ones are, like, is there any reports that show the levels of danger at each intersection so that we can make a decision based on need of priority and not just opinion? Do you know what I'm saying?
Is there, Mr. Cole, is there a police report or actions regarding number of incidents at different intersections.
Sure, through you, Mr. Warden. Yeah, I mean, we try to, we monitor our intersections and the collisions that are at them, but there isn't a comprehensive county-wide report. Things like that can be carried out. They're quite extensive. It's a lot of data collection. So we try to monitor those ones that we know are, have a need for more focused attention, but don't have a comprehensive report available. If we wanted to put something like that together, we need to hire a consultant and do a county-wide review. It would be a little bit time-consuming, certainly manageable, and we could come back with a cost on how much that would be.
Okay. Any other questions regarding that? The motion, oh, Councillor Hand, sorry.
Sorry, back to, forget who just raised it, to Mr. Cole. So the motion is to review having a roundabout, but I'm curious about having a study, as I know Mr. Cole can do, on options for that particular corner. So is the roundabout the best option, or what else could be done? So don't we normally review like the situation overall and suggest and make a recommendation as to best fix?
Mr. Cole, would you like to speak to that?
Sure, through you, Mr. Warden. Yeah, absolutely. We would typically come back with an intersection review study, presenting different options available to what measures could be put in place and what ones would be effective and what ones would not. I mean, we can pursue doing that prior to budget next year, or we could present that at budget should it still be necessary.
Okay, seeing Councillor White, then Councillor Broad.
Thank you, Warden. I would just hope for the sake of this, when it returns to budget, that we could include some sort of education component to that cost as well. To Councillor Bird's point, I don't know if anyone remembers, I think it would have been back on 12, 13 years ago on CKCO, there was an extensive media blitz on how to navigate roundabouts, I think from the Kitchener-Waterloo area when they were installing them throughout their entire region at such a breakneck speed. So I would think that a similar type of campaign would work here. And again, just to address the concerns of how do we approach these intersections and how do we safely navigate through and allow other traffic to flow through as well. So just hope that there's a little bit of money put aside in this budget for education.
Okay, Councillor Broad, then Councillor Loosley.
Warden Weaver, I appreciate the request for the other intersection and stuff, but I sure hope this intersection don't get bogged down in bureaucracy. I hope we're able to look at this intersection. Let's get this one here straightened out. And yes, we have some others in the county that do need to be reviewed. I agree with that, but let's not bog down this one intersection for the sake of all the intersections we have. To Councillor Bird's problem there, we had an intersection once that we had a problem with. The locals were complaining about everybody running the stop sign, etc. We called the local police. We had them sit there and monitor it and lay charges, and it was the locals that received all the charges. So that's how things happen. We have the police. Let's use them. Let's not rule out a roundabout because we have some people that don't want to follow the rules of the road with it. So that's just my hope that we move forward with this one here and that it doesn't get bogged down with the other bureaucracy on the rest of the intersection. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Loosley.
Yeah, thank you, Warden Weaver. I certainly don't want to bog it down either, but I think we should consider an amendment to look at the roundabout or other options, just to keep it simple. And if so, I would certainly make that motion to amend the motion on the floor to include to look at other options.
Okay. And I see Councillor Bird, are you seconding that amendment?
Sorry, no, I had another comment.
Okay. Councillor Bradley will second the amendment. Okay, Councillor Arnold wishes to speak to that amendment.
Thank you, Warden Weaver, members of the County Council. The problem with looking at other options, there are no other options unless you put stoplights in from both ways or stop signs in both ways. So the purpose of a roundabout is to eliminate a T-bone accident. And any of those other options that go further than what we currently have, they do nothing to address that T-bone issue if somebody runs the stop sign or the stop light. And so that's why I have a hard time supporting that type of an amendment to it, because there is nothing left. I know staff's done a great job trying to improve that intersection. They have overhead lights flashing, they have oversized signs, you know, they've cleared things off to make it more conducive for people to see in that area. And I think that this is a logical next step to prevent T-bone accidents.
Okay, Councillor Bird, then Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, Warden Weaver. Further to Councillor Broad and Councillor White's comments and to my original comment, I would just like to emphasise and say that I did say that the roundabout was the best of all the options. I wasn't saying that there was another way to go, but my point was as Councillor White mentioned, we need to educate people with how to use anything new or anything that's existing, because people get into the habit of bad habits. So whatever we decide to do, and I hope it is a roundabout, but we just really have to have some good educational programs to support this. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Ferguson.
I agree with that we need to work at this intersection. As a farmer, I want to make sure that the roundabout doesn't fit physically in there for farm equipment to get through, that we are leaving ourselves open for the other options. That's my point. That if it doesn't physically fit, we have yards, you have houses within a certain distance in there. I want to be able to make sure we can look at second options. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Warden. Mr.
Councillor
Warden,
Boucher.
I think we're making a big issue out of that roundabout. I think I support Councillor Arnold. I think when we had that roundabout in Sarnia, everybody complained about it. Everybody complained. Now everybody's kind of happy about it. I think it has proven to be a very effective way of controlling the traffic. And Councillor Arnold, you have my support. I think it's going to come back to the budget anyway with a lot of information, but let's not bury it and make an issue out of it.
Okay, Councillor Loosley.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Warden. The intent isn't to spend a lot of time. It was just to consider looking at other possible options. And if the roundabout's the best option, fine. But the intent's not to spend a lot of time or money on that. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Did I ask the question or am I?
Yes, sorry, Lonnie, when you put your hand up, it goes off the side of the screen. That's why I don't see it sometimes, sorry.
I just want to make a comment there. You're talking about going out getting studies and everything. I think Mrs. DeGurse done a detailed study. I don't think you'll gather any more information than what she gave you there. And, you know, I think it's great. I don't know why you'd spend the money on a study. It was pretty detailed, I thought.
Okay, I think we will vote on the amendment first. That includes looking at other options. If that passes, then we'll vote on the motion as amended. So the first motion, or the first vote will be for the amendment. And I would make sure you hold your hands up and all in favor of the amendment. All opposed? I think Stefan, are you counting there?
Would it be easier if I could ask for a recorded vote?
Recorded vote passed, so I guess that's the process we'll go through on the amendment.
Yeah, I find it very confusing trying to figure out who voted which way on this call.
Okay. We're voting on the amendment now on a recorded vote. And Stefan's going to get the box and draw a name, I believe.
Could you please read the amendment?
Sorry?
Could you please read the amendment?
The amendment is that other options be investigated as well as the roundabout. And maybe Stefan can define that clearer for us.
Yep, so what you would be voting on now is the amendment which is for a report not only to consider the cost of constructing an appropriate roundabout at that intersection, but also to lay out potential options, other options for council for improvements to that intersection. And recorded vote was asked by Councillor Bradley, and we are starting with Councillor Loosely.
In favor.
Deputy Warden Marriott.
Opposed.
Councillor Miller.
Opposed.
Councillor Napper.
Opposed.
Councillor Rombouts.
In favor?
Councillor Stark.
Opposed.
Councillor Bean. Not in. Okay. Councillor White.
Opposed.
Councillor Arnold.
Opposed.
Thank you. Councillor Byrd.
Agree.
Pardon?
Agree.
Councillor Bouchy.
Opposed.
Councillor Bradley.
Favor.
Councillor Broad.
Opposed.
That's an opposed. Councillor Cook.
In favor.
Councillor Ferguson.
In favor.
Councillor Hand.
In favor?
And Warden Weaver.
Opposed.
Motion fails.
Okay. So now we'll vote on the original motion, which is to include costs and in the 21 budget for a roundabout at that intersection.
Recorded vote, please.
Okay, Councillor Stark has requested a recorded vote. If we can have Stefan back.
That's good. So on the main motion that is described and recorded in the agenda at item number 15, recorded vote requested by Councillor Stark, and we are starting with Lonnie Napper. Councillor Napper.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Rombouts.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Stark.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor White.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Arnold.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Byrd.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Bouchy.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Bradley. That's a yes.
Yes.
Councillor Broad. That's a yes.
Yes.
Councillor Cook. Thank you.
Yes.
Councillor Ferguson.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Hand.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Loosely.
Yes.
Thank you. Deputy Warden Marriott.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Miller.
Yes.
Thank you. And Warden Weaver.
Yes.
That's unanimous. It carries.
Thank you. Item number 16 is other business. Councillor Byrd.
Warden Weaver. After the devastating announcement about the long-term care homes in the Greater Toronto area, I started watching a lot more of Premier Ford's press conferences, and at one of them a few days ago, the long-term care minister, Minister Fullerton, was asked a question by, I believe, the Globe and Mail reporter, and he said, "I've heard that inspections of the homes don't actually ever get carried out, as one would think. He said, I've heard that they're just phone call surveys. So she agreed, and Minister Fullerton said, yes, the Ministry of Health carry out their surveys and checks by phone. So given that, I would like to refer to communications between staff and myself on May the 11th and 12th, where in fact I had been asking, prior to all this announcement, I had been asking about inspections and follow-ups and different things. And staff had said to me that prior to the pandemic, they had 2 checks a week, and during the pandemic, at least 1 check a week. But nowhere in any of the communications was I told that they were purely by phone. So my question to staff today is, are they in fact, as Minister Fullerton said, all by phone?
Is our director for the long-term care home available to speak to that?
Yes, through you, Warden. Yes, the inspectors are phoning and emailing with the administrators at the homes. We haven't had an inspection, though. Those are discussions about what our response is and how those things are going. So the inspections that have happened before the pandemic certainly were on site. They did follow up with an inspection that had started before the pandemic, which I believe was by phone. They had been in the home for several days, and then the home was closed, and they finished that inspection by telephone.
Thank you for the reply. It's just really concerning to think, because I was assuming, nobody had said any differently, but I was assuming that all inspections, because just by the nature of the word, means it's what you look at, what you see. And so I just assumed that they were all in person. So I am very concerned that the only kind of check we have is by phone call. I think that's something that needs to be addressed, but thank you.
Okay. We'll let the province is doing a review of that. So any other questions, other business? You're up forward at this time. Seeing none, notice of bylaws.
Yes, thank you. Moved by Councillor Hand and seconded by Councillor Rombout that bylaws 16 and 17 of 2020 as circulated be taken as read a first and second time.
Questions regarding that? All in favor? Carried, thank you.
Thank you. It is moved by Councillor Rombout and seconded by Councillor Hand that bylaws 16 and 17 of 2020 as circulated be taken as read a third and final time.
Questions? All in favor? That's carried, thank you. And motion to adjourn. Councillor Hand, seconded by Councillor Boucher. And we'll meet again on Wednesday, July the 8th. Everybody needs to take care out there. We will continue to see the gradual opening and warming of the weather. And we hope that we can do that in a fashion that gets us back to business. As we see it expanding, we need to be cautious and considerate of others. And I would ask if all in favor of adjournment for today, and thank you. That is carried. Stay safe out there. Thank you.
Thank you.